This title is narrated with virtual voice, computer-generated narration for audiobooks. Lew Wallace and the Story of Ben-Hur by Joe Wheeler. Introduction. The fascination of Ben-Hur. I was just a child when I first read Ben-Hur. But, like most children, I liked the book without really knowing why. After all, to a child, a book, a radio drama, a TV show, a movie, all is reality. When something is reality, rarely does one dissect it or ask why it's real. Criticism comes with age. When a teenager, I read it again, and this time, it was the chariot racing I remember most vividly. I read it again as a teacher, mainly because a student I had assigned it to complained of how slow it moved. Slow? Ben-Hur? Surely he was kidding. But, to my surprise, at the beginning, the action was indeed a little slow. In fact, it remained so for about a quarter of the book. Then, suddenly it was in gear. From that point on, it was virtually unput-downable. I determined that someday, I'd find out why it was constructed that way. With the editing of this book, the second in this series, arrived my moment of truth. What I discovered was this. The reasons for its initial slowness are several. 1. There are actually 2 books grafted together, deliberately. 2. Before the action could proceed non-stop, there had to be a lot of explaining first. 3. By the very nature of the time frame, Christ's 33 years on earth, the characters would age much more during the story than is typical in such a book, that necessitated a character who would represent the glue which holds the narrative together. 4. Most significant of all, the difficulties involved in introducing our Lord into a work of fiction. In mid to late 19th century, this just wasn't done. In fact, to many Christians, all fiction was considered suspect, if not evil. In getting ready for this edition, I read the book again, 4 times, in conjunction with the Garfield edition and its 850 beautiful woodcut illustrations. This 2-volume extravaganza cost $30 in 1891, equivalent of paying $500, $650 today, making it one of the most expensive such sets of its time, and today, incredibly rare. This time, the combination of illustrations and multiple readings almost overwhelmed me. One of the most profound spiritual experiences of my life. Along the way, I discovered how very important it is that the reader digest all of it, for everything in the book builds on what has gone before, especially the love of the ancient world in the first section of the book. How Wallace put it all together represents one of the great miracles of American literature. Next, the movie. Well, Charlton Heston, he is the 1959 movie. Larger than life. Like John Wayne, Heston has never been one for supporting actor roles. He dominates, takes over, is realer than most of the people we know in real life. Which brings us to the problem of movie reality. Especially in terms of movies which purport to recreate actual history. It is a problem which Aldous Huxley first introduced via his world controller in Brave New World. A dictator may, by the rather simple act of destroying all pertinent records of the past, actually change history. Once historical records are destroyed, who can possibly mount a successful challenge to rewritten or distorted history? Movie producers don't even have to do this deliberately, for they can hide under the protean blanket of artistic license. Result? A movie which bears so little resemblance to the book it is supposedly based on, that the author watches it in horror and disbelief. Where did this monstrosity come from? Certainly not from my book. So it is that I find precious few movies based on works of literature fail to disappoint. Well, to a certain extent, all movies disappoint for each of us, while reading creates our own inner cinematography. No 2 of us transubstantiate abstract words into the same visual imagery. Consequently,
To keep listening to this audiobook, I've left you a link in the description so you can do it, at no cost thanks to Audible's 30-day free trial.